Right, good evening, members. Okay, good evening, members, officers. So a note to read during Ramadan. So as you know, we are in a period of Ramadan. Some councillors will wish to open their fast at the appropriate time, which this evening is around 6:30 p.m. If the meeting is still ongoing, which I'm hoping we wrap up before, it will be paused at the appropriate time for 10 minutes so that those members who wish to open their fast and read their prayers can do so. Fruit and water will be provided for members. And now on to the general reminder. The meeting this evening will be live streamed to the public. A recording of the public parts of the meeting will be available on Council's website within 24 hours of the meeting. Members and officers, please switch your microphone on when speaking and remember to turn it off when you're not speaking. Please speak directly into the microphone, and all present, please switch off or put your phones on silent. Thank you. Right, apologies for absence.
Apologies from Councillor Ambier, Chair.
Thank you. And are we all happy with the meeting minutes from the last meeting? Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Any section 106? Okay, disclosures of interest?
Usually declare governorships, don't we? Governor of Queen Elizabeth School and Governor of the Virtual School.
Okay, and I am Governor of Dallow Primary School.
Governor of William Austin Junior School.
Any others? No, that's fine. Any urgent business?
None, Chair.
Okay. Right, I'm going to references from committees and other bodies.
Chair.
Right, I'm going to move on to the report. I'll take the report as read, and I'll only take questions relevant to the report only. And if I find that you are repeating a question that's already been asked, I won't take it. So over to you, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So my name is Adam Divney. I'm the Service Director for Citizen Engagement and Legal Services for the Council, and I'll be taking this item around our Social Justice Unit and their restructure in terms of their OCA. So as the paper outlines, this is actually the second phase of an OCA. The first part of it was completed in 2021 to set up our new Social Justice Unit at that stage. And the reasons why the two biggest reasons why we've come together to restructure again are to integrate the community centres. So we've got our 5 community centres and staff. So part of it is about integrating those centres and staff into the social justice unit, but also, and this is really important, to have the appropriate resources to deliver our social justice and fairness strategy, which, as we all know, everyone's familiar with this, and it's a really integral part of our 2040 mission. So what is also very important is the way we've developed this OCA and what we've intended to do, which is to focus on recruitment and retention, really important, pathways for staff development, so making sure that the staff who are in that service are able to develop, they're able to gain promotions and able to move on through the council. In fact, a member of staff now could start at quite a junior level, around an L2, and move all the way through technically to a service director level through the pathways that we've created. The other really important point is around resilience. So the unit, as we saw it before, had some really key expertise in terms of the personnel in the service, but unfortunately it was a difficult task insofar as that if one of those members of staff moved on from the council, effectively that caused us a bit of a problem in terms of that skills, expertise, experience leaving. So we've created a bit more resilience in terms of a deputy head of service, for example, and different layers within the service to account for removing any single points of contact, so single points of failure, I should say. So the actual restructure itself, an OCA, focuses on 4 key areas: equality and diversity, community safety services, social inclusion or community development as we know it, and our community centres, as I mentioned before. And I won't go into each element, but in your document pack, you've got the handling organisational change document, which talks about the rationale and some of the functions for each of those areas. Again, I can take questions on that, Chair, if that's okay, if needed. I should mention at this stage, the risk of redundancy of this restructure is really, really low. We've got more jobs than people, and we've been really creative as a unit to bring funding in from different areas, from public health, from Home Office, from other government agencies, to ensure that we have jobs for all the people that are in the service currently, which is really important. Just to outline, as per the report itself, we've done some pretty extensive engagement throughout the process. If you look at point 12 in your report, whereby we've had meetings with the staff 6 months prior to the actual formal OCA consultation period. But in terms of the period itself, we have met with the whole team, the absolute whole team, everyone involved 3 times, at the start, at the middle, and at the end of the consultation. We've actually extended the consultation from the original 4 weeks to 6 weeks to make sure that we've had appropriate amount of time to hear views, to get an appropriate amount of challenge to make sure everyone has listened, had their views heard. We have given every member of staff a one-to-one, at least one one-to-one, and if we get agreement tonight when we go through our implementation phase, we will offer one-to-ones for every member of staff going forward as well. Each member of staff has been communicated via emails, in person, and in various other ways, in fairness, through the actual consultation process. And as members will recognise, there's been various presentations given in different forums around the restructure. I think every member here has been presented to in one shape or form through different various formats, as I said. So just moving back, last part of the intro from me, Chair. I think probably really important to mention as well that we've had really good engagement from the unions. We've been to the trade unions, we've spoken to them, had some really good feedback. We tweaked our engagement plans based on what they told us in terms of engaging over Christmas and so on and so forth. So we've had Unison rep Caroline Kimber, who's attended 2 of the whole team meetings as well, really positive. It gave a good opportunity for the union voice throughout that process. And the final point, just to add, as I wrap up for the moment before questions, is that we have been to our job evaluation panel a couple of times through this restructure. The first time, the grades and the roles, the grading for some of the roles we felt didn't represent necessarily the value of the community work that some of our staff do. So we went back following staff so the staff members adding some different responsibilities and then tweaking the job descriptions, which was really important. And in terms of the actual recruitment process, as we move into implementation, we've offered things like CV and skills writing for our adult learning service, which is really important. And we will make it, I guess, as painless as possible in terms of simplifying the application process for staff involved. Essentially, there's some long-standing members of staff what have been in the service a long time, and we want to make sure within the boundaries of what we can and can't do within process that we don't make it a hard thing for them to reapply for jobs that they've been in for a long time, albeit slightly different in terms of the roles and responsibilities. So I think I'll leave it there, Chair, and open up for questions if that's okay.
Thank you, Adam. I think this is a really positive change that, if accepted today, would be a great thing to implement. So I'm going to move on to questions. Do members have any questions? Councillor Keynes.
I've only got about 20 questions. Have we got the time? Actually, I've only got one. On page 14, under 30, item 13, you put and new neighbourhood arrangements. What's that mean?
Yeah, happy to take that. So as part of our discussions and engagement with members, we've been talking quite a while actually about providing members with additional support in areas to enable them to carry out their leadership role as ward members. So probably best described, if we were going to look at the structure itself, if I can just turn you to page, well, the new structure document in the main report, you'll see that there's a group of posts in there called social inclusion coordinators, graded at L7. They role principally will be working on an area basis to support members to make sure we've got people out on the patch in neighbourhoods to look at member priorities, to look at community and resident priorities, and be able to have some resource to be able to coordinate a multi-agency response, working with our colleagues in police, working with our colleagues in the council, whether it's parks, health, social care, to ensure that we have got a bit more of a coordinated response to local priorities in neighbourhoods. So That approach hasn't exactly been locked down with members yet, because obviously we need the resources in place before we can ensure that we have that right discussion. But I know, Councillor, we've had a discussion with you in a meeting a few months back in committee room 3, and that as a part of us developing that going forward is having a member group together. Across council, cross-party member groups to develop those arrangements. So we haven't forgotten about that. That is in process. It is in play. But we have to get through this juncture first and make sure we've got the resources to be able to do what we need to do, basically.
Thank you. I don't know whether this comes under the what we're discussing tonight, but the integral impact assessment on page 29, marriage and civil partnerships. You're about 10 years out of date on that.
I think if there's issues with the IAA, I can take them away separately, Chair, relook at them, and thank you for drawing our notice to it. I haven't gone through every nook and cranny of the IAA, so I will take away, reflect on that, and ensure if there's something that needs correcting, I'll do that if that's okay, Councillor.
That could be raised on a separate occasion, but
Okay.
that's fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Councillor Abbas?
Thank you. Adam, I was just going to ask you, I mean, what's the financial implications of this restructure?
Yeah, really good question. So in your report, under the financial implications section, obviously there's some commentary on there, but essentially some of the posts in the structure are fixed term, and the reason they're fixed term is because we've got them for the life of the current administration, essentially 3 years from April, and we'll be looking for funding to increase them outside of that, of course. But as I mentioned previously, the team have been super creative to try and work with agencies, with arm's length bodies, with our own internal departments to be able to ensure that we've got the appropriate resource to develop the fairness offer, because we know the fairness offer and social justice isn't just about this team. Obviously, it extends far beyond that. So rightly, Public Health are investing quite a bit of money actually in our approach to community development in social and social inclusion and social justice. So essentially, if I'm going to answer your question in the clearest way, there is no increase in base budget required for this restructure. If anything, actually, the base budget is slightly decreased. So we've got some resilience around planning for the future in terms of exit strategies for roles, future redundancies and those types of things. So does that answer your question, does it?
Just asking whether obviously you're looking to create a number of posts, and I was thinking, well, how's that going to affect your current budget? So.
Yeah, so it's neutral, if that's helpful. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Keynes?
Can I just make a request? Can you guarantee that under the new restructuring, the Let's Talk meetings will carry on?
I think that, I couldn't guarantee in this forum. I think part of our discussion is coming to see you and the group and, different groups and making sure that we agree approach together. Now, rightly so, different groups will have different ways they want to engage with their residents, and we'll need to take account of all of those. And members' voice in this is absolutely critical. We need to come and speak to members, understand how we can support you and give you the tools to engage with communities. So if you feel that Let's Talk is the best way to do it, then that will be agreed, I'm sure, and you will be doing, providing resources to support that. So, but it's not for me to agree the exact mechanics of how that member offer is going to look here, because there's a wider discussion we have to have, I think it's fair to say.
Okay. Right. Councillor Malik.
There are a number of applications and posts are starting. How can we know that new candidates are working very well? Is there any assessment for every month about their progress?
So we are in terms of current staff or new staff starting. Current So current staff will go through a process. It's different because there's so many roles in here. There's no uniformed approach because there's different grades, differentials, and there's lots of different factors. But essentially, we work with HR. HR give us the advice on the recruitment methodology we need to take. That's all of that's included in the implementation plan that we've drafted already and ready to go. So happy to circulate that if that's helpful. But if you're talking about, so that process is clear. We follow that process, but basically, there's no flexibility to do something else, So like recruiting any role, it will go through the appropriate process, the appropriate assessment. There might be an odd slot in where someone is in a role what is essentially not changing much, so they'll slot in. There might be others where they're ring fenced to a role, so there'll be a group of staff who are working at a certain grade or certain responsibility, and there'll be roles they can apply for. Or there might be staff that are going for fresh opportunities in the structure anyway, because there's lots of what we've done is we've worked super hard to create more posts in the structure. In fact, there might be some posts what aren't even in this structure at the moment because there's some funding bids outstanding and so on. So if anything, there's some really good promotion opportunities for staff. So I guess in answer, sorry, that's a long answer, but we're bound by our own HR processes and they are robust, as you know, in terms of assessment and so on.
Previous staff is already well trained, but how about the new staff? Because we are bringing creating a new setup and along with the old setup as well. So are we giving the training to new staff as well?
Yeah, so again, some of that will be the core offer. When we bring someone in, they go for a certain induction, all the team train as you'd expect. But I think you've hit on an interesting point in terms of because there's so much change, how we go about that as a team. And, to a large degree, I think some of that thinking still needs to happen, if I'm being honest, because we haven't got like a training plan yet for this group of staff, because we're at this point now just trying to get it over the line here today. But I think I can take that away and speak to Marek and Scott, and others who are in the structure and going to be leading to understand how they best feel that as a leadership team, they'd like to integrate new members of staff and make sure that the existing members of staff also, are trained according to the new roles they'll be undertaking.
Thank you. Councillor Ajisola.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. Just a quick one. I don't know if we'd like to borrow the word guaranteed, but I want to ask if it's going to be possible that the new staff in the new organogram, people coming in, is going to reflect the diversity of our town, the Black minority ethnic groups and the LGBTQ plus and other stuff. Thank you.
So I think we're really lucky because of the nature of what the social justice unit do, that we've got really good links to ensure the roles are appropriately advertised, to all of our contacts through the social justice newsletter, which you won't be surprised to know that has got all of the right contacts in terms of some of the groups you just mentioned there. So I'm super confident that we can get the right people in the roles and ensure that it's an inclusive approach to recruitment. And we need people with lived experience in some of the roles, and that's a key thing we'll be looking for. So, but again, just to add, we are bound by our own policy around HR and recruitment, and we'll be following that, of course, first and foremost.
Thank you. That was a good question. Thank you. So I'm going to move the recommendation to move the implementation for new structure set out with this report. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah.
Okay, that's been seconded by Councillor Abbas. So that's fine. That's been approved.
Thank you for your time and feedback, as always, councillors. Thank you.
That's right. Moving on to the work programme. Again, I'm going to assume it as read and accepted. There's an additional meeting with 2 items on the 23rd of April. Does anyone have any problems with how it currently stands? No? Councillor Keynes?
I just got a query. Why have we got a special meeting for this?
Chair, I think these are time limited items that need to be slotted in before a particular area of time. So that's why there's an additional meeting called for.
It's all right. I was just wondering why, because it's ordinary stuff. So
these are time sensitive and they needed to be fit in before a certain time period. Is everyone else okay with that? Yeah, that's fine. that's all accepted. So that brings